So this is the story about the driver who made people hate me. What's good, folk? Welcome and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Israel Giftwillas Muntami. Before we get into this video, you know what to do, guys. Subscribe, like, maybe leave a comment down below, and also don't forget to turn on your post notification buttons to be alerted or notified whenever I post a new video. And also don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Israel Sumutami, and also at TikTok at Israel Sumutami 80. Okay, since I'm done with my intro, now I can stop pretending like a presenter. Okay, so so this story actually takes place at my primary school, and this was like in 2016, 2015, around that time. And let's just call the driver Mr. Joffrey, that Joffrey. Let's go in my Joffrey. So my Joffrey's job was practically the normal driver jobs, which was to take me and my sister to school at that time and bring us back home whenever we're done with school. So our school timetable was practically 7:30 to 13 hours on some days, and other days to be 7:30 to 16 hours. And he would wait from the time he dropped us off at school until 16 hours or 13 hours. But you know, sometimes he wouldn't just wait at school. He would have like other tasks. Maybe my mom would give him like, hey, no, go do this, go do that for me. Or he would like get other small jobs from the school that the school would give him, like maybe drive this bus this side with these children and take them that side because this driver we have is busy, and he would do that for them. And I don't know if he used to get paid or not. The main reason why Joffrey was was to stay at school waiting for me and my sister was because of any emergencies. If anything happened, we would have like direct transport from school to the hospital or wherever we needed to go. So this story takes place after my sister left to go to her boarding school, and that was in 2016, and I remained at primary alone. While I was at primary, most of the days I was supposed to like knock off at 16 hours. The reason why I'm saying supposed to is because I wasn't going home at 16 hours, and this is why, and this is practically the anchor of this whole story. Why I wasn't going, like knocking off from school at 16 hours was because my mother knocked off at 17. Well, she still knocks off at 17. Yeah. So my mother got off work at 17 hours, and if I was to go to her workplace at 16 hours, that means I had 1 hour to wait. Now, this is where things get messy. Mom told me to like come to our office like maybe somewhere at 16:50, so like my wait isn't long, because when I'm at her workplace, I wouldn't have anything to do at all. Nothing at all except sit in the car, and I couldn't even carry my phone. Yeah, so don't get me wrong. My mom told Joffrey the reason why I'm supposed to. In fact, she told him before she told me. We're in the car together. She told him that you'll be bringing Israel to my workplace at 16:50 because I don't want him to wait for long. And he was like, okay. So now I don't know what happened. After my mom told, I don't know what happened, honestly. So it's like Joffrey went to start telling the staff at my primary school that, hey, no, Israel doesn't want to go home. It makes me go home late or something like that. I don't know what he told them, but they started having sympathy for him while they started hating on me. A lot of things actually happened because of this. So one of the stories, I think the 3 stories, I'll start from like lightest to heaviest. So the first story is that I would normally like be in school at break time, right? playing with my friends, or just like maybe even just walking to class after the bell rings. And then like most of like the cleaners, the inside cleaners and the outside cleaners will ask me, "Hey, no, Israel, why don't you like going home? Why don't you like going home early? You know, but Joffrey has to like also reach home fast. Why don't you shan?" It's like they started bothering me, and I don't know. Yeah, I remember telling them. No, mom said that I should go to her workplace at 16:50 because she doesn't want me to wait at her office. And she also told him, I don't know if they believed me or not, but I doubt if they believed me because a lot of people at my primary school liked staying after 16 because that's when we would play a lot of different games like chocolate box, um Mother Mary, what British Bulldog, what were the other games? Guy, I forgot. Maybe some were even playing cheer at home. Yeah, so that was the main reason why they thought I wanted to stay late. But I told them the reason. They knew the reason. So now this is the second story. One of the repercussions of a Joffrey busy complaining to the staff members at my old school that, hey, no, Israel doesn't want to go home. Yeah. So there was this time I was in another class that wasn't mine, if I can say, but it was in grade six, I think. Yeah, it was in grade six. So I don't even know what I was doing in that class at that time. But yeah, though it was around the time for like choosing prefects and stuff like that. So there was this female teacher, let's call her Mrs. Banda. Mhm. So Mrs. Banda was like, I'm telling me, my friend, and my friends who were there, who could be prefects. Like, hey, no, you can be a prefect, yes, because of this, that, and this, that. So like, she literally told everybody who was there that you could be a prefect because of whatever reason she had, and she told me I was the only person that was there. She told me, no, you can't be a prefect. You can't be a prefect. I was like, why? Because you let your driver go home late. Did you did if I don't even know what to say. My mouth is like not coordinating with my brain. The anger and sadness I felt at that time, because like it really hurts when like, especially because I was a child. I think I was like 11 or 10, 11 years old. Um, it really hurts when a child is told you can't do this or you're not going to be that because of something you can't control. And this was really irresponsible for that teacher because she didn't even know why it was happening. She didn't even bother to ask why. She just decided to take the opinion of Joffrey and take it as gospel truth before hearing the other side. But hey, who would want to listen to an 11-year-old? So like I was the only one at that time who was told that I wouldn't be a prefect because I used to force my driver to go home late. And that eh, they're doing something on top of the house. Sorry guys. Okay, we are back. My glasses became darker, so I'm waiting for them to become light. I don't like putting them on when they become dark inside. Yeah. So saying that to a child that was like 11 years old, being picked on, and being the only one told that they're not going to be a prefect, because of things they couldn't control, was really something. Was really something that was like heartbreaking. It was really heartbreaking for me. So that's how I felt bad, and I told my mom. I told my mom what happened, and my mom was furious. So I don't know if she talked to Joffrey. Yeah, I don't know if she talked to Joffrey about it. No, she didn't. At that time, she didn't. So she went to my school the next day, and shouted at the teacher. Yeah, she shouted at the teacher. So what happened was that my mom was upset, went to school in the morning, and went directly to the teacher and asked to speak to her. So me knowing my mom, there were a lot of words that was spoken. Me knowing my mom, there were a lot of things that were mentioned. And in the end, the teacher came to me and apologized because of what she said. So the third story, that Geoffrey wasn't to getting like me to go home early. So he resorted to reporting me to a teacher who he knew was like rude and strict and used to talk a lot. Yeah. So he reported me to this man, let's call him Mr. Zulu. So Mr. Zulu had like the reputation of like being the most scary teacher and stuff like that. So Mr. Zulu was somehow friends with Mr. Bajofri. So Mr. Zulu was somehow friends with Bajofri. So Bajofri is to go report me to Mr. Zulu that, hey, no, this child likes going late and stuff like that. So Mr. Who am I talking about? I get confused because I'm not using the real name. So yeah, Bajofri went to complain to Mr. Zulu, and Mr. Zulu came to shout at me. Hey, no, go home, go home, go home. You're not supposed to be here at this time. Go home, go home. So I went home because first thing, he used to talk a lot. Secondly, I don't like being shouted at. Even up to now, I just don't like being shouted at. So I would rather do what you're telling me to do, the right thing. So I'm not in that space. So but Geoffrey knew that worked. So I started using it frequently. So there was this time, um, Mr. Zulu and my class teacher in grade 6, let's call her Mrs. Piri. Yeah. So Mr. Zulu and Mrs. Piri were in the computer lab when Rajoffrey went to go tell Mr. Zulu that Israel doesn't want to go home. Come and talk to him. Something like that. I don't know how it was, but practically that was the message that was spread. So now my class teacher, Mrs. Perry, heard that, right? She heard it. So Mr. Zulu now came to shout at me. Like, this was the day he really shouted at me. And Rajoffrey. So I don't know if it made him feel happy that I was being shouted at or something like that. So yeah, this was the day Mr. Zulu really came to shout at me, like shout at me, shout at me. He was like, hey, no, you don't like listening, shan, 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 shan. Your brother and sister are not like this. Why can't you be like them? Shan, 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 shan. Ah! I thought I could talk. Even up to now, I say, hey, no, me, don't. When you get me upset, I'll talk. That man could talk. But Zulu could talk. I don't even know where he is right now. Yeah, I saw Mr. Zulu shouted at me. I think I even cried. I don't know if I cried. I doubt. No, I didn't cry. I was just feeling really bad. So Mrs. Peary was in the computer center when Rajov, Rajov, Mrs. Perry was in the same computer lab as I said as Mr. Zulu and Rajofrin came to tell him. So Mrs. Perry heard it, and Mrs. Perry came down after after Mr. Zulu shouted at me. So Mrs. Perry asked Rajofrin, why why are you telling Mr. Zulu to tell him to go? Why can't you come to me, who's his class teacher? So I don't know the conversation they had about it, but Mrs. P really looked like she was upset. And I told Mrs. P what was really happening. That was the day I was really upset, and I finally told my mom, this is what Joffrey does. He goes to tell Mr. Zulu that Israel doesn't want to go to Israel doesn't want to go home early because Shanshan, and me, I want to go home. Kaya, whatever I told them. So that's how I told my mom that. And the next morning when Rajofri came to pick me up, My mom shouted at him. Then my mom shouted at the teacher who shouted at me. She was like, hey, no, how can you compare my child to my other children? Stuff like that. Kai, what she said. And Rajoffrey was given Rajoffrey was given a warning, and the teacher was also given a shouting, and the teacher came to like apologize to me also. My mom shouted at teachers, and they came to apologize to me. So that's how Rajoffrey got off with a warning, and the teacher ended up apologizing to me because he didn't even know the reason, and they all just came shouting at me. Like, who shouts at Israel for no reason? Okay, I'm getting cocky. But yeah, why would you shout as a child at somebody who has been given information or instructions? Yeah, who has been given instructions by his parent, and you don't know the reason, but yet you proceed to go shout at the child. In the end, I can't even say that those people believed me, but most they must have heard that my mom shouted at these people, these teachers. Yeah, but I don't know if they in the end believed me or they still wanted to believe my Joffrey. My Joffrey. My Joffrey. My Joffrey. So if you like this story time, please subscribe, like, and maybe leave a comment down below. You can also share it. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Israel Simutami and on TikTok at Israel Simutami 18. See you next time, guys.